The shift of companies into unregulated spaces has reshaped the online platform landscape, leaving governance nearly non-existent. A key driver of this change is the end of NASDAQ's one share, one vote rule, which originally helped company founders maintain control despite private equity influence. Corston-Smith founder Datuk Shireen and Zaharah Muhiudeen, a long-time advocate for corporate governance and ESG activism, warns that this lack of oversight has spread into big tech. At the just concluded International Legal Conference on Online Harms, Shireen shares her insights.
Basically, I started my conversation talking about my interest in corporate governance. And I launched my fund in 2004. And this was about improving governance and sustainability standards in the region. So companies that we invest in, we push them to have better governance standards. And one of the areas that I've noticed is that because now there are many companies that are able to be listed without having the one share, one vote rule, meaning dual class shares, this has empowered individuals who are founders that they can never be voted out, no matter what they do. So a bit of the transparency and the governance controls that we normally have in capital markets when we tap money doesn't apply to them. And these same individuals have benefited because the laws of the countries haven't caught up with what they are doing using digital space. So I think digital governance today is as important as corporate governance and is a part of corporate governance. So when I first started speaking to Professor Taylor and Francis Haugen, it was really about talking about, in the beginning, the riots in the United Kingdom. You know, for the first time, we've issued a travel warning to the United Kingdom. Many of us, we travel back and forth. My mother is from England, and I have never felt unwelcome or worried to even go because I look different from them. And this is suddenly embarked on us that I asked them, what exactly happened, and what about the online harms bill or the safety bill that the UK is drafting? Their thoughts were very wide in the sense that, the UK hasn't come up with their bill yet. It's been 7 years in the making. Then I went on to about Brazil's fight with one of the platforms. And why was it that this particular platform felt that they were above even the highest court of the land of 220 million people? So the conversation then went on to say that I think it was Professor Taylor who was talking about how this platform, Twitter, didn't like the fact that the Brazilian government has said you need to have somebody responsible, legally responsible in the country where you operate. Because many of these companies, they operate in another country and then they just use, or they come in and collect users from other countries without having any representation. So there's no way of stopping them. So they don't have to answer, is clearly a message that I heard in the conversation. They don't have to respond because they're in another country. I then went on to ask them and say, do these platforms think that they are beyond the reach of democratic governance? And do they think they're above the law? And clearly the answer is yes. They do, because nobody is able to touch them, where they operate, where they're listed. They are not compelled to do anything or to make any changes, not yet anyway. And when people say that somebody has died, they'll say, oh, no, we'll deal with improving our things. But generally they don't. I then went on to talk about some of the issues between the different types of platforms. So, for example, India was brought up, how when India has made certain requests to Twitter, Twitter has obliged India, whereas there were only 6 requests made by Brazil, and they wouldn't agree to it. So clearly it is also, they have different levels of acceptability towards these platforms. We then spoke about whether the push for AI is distracting us from social media regulation. And again, the answer was clearly yes. Lots of money that was leaning towards social media regulation is now moving towards AI. And instead of thinking that actually social media regulation needs to continue as the policy, and AI will be something within the social media platform. So if AI is creating images of you, but it's an AI image, and it is still causing you harm, it's still a harm. So this was what I found very interesting, that we need to have these policies that are broad enough, and we need to have these policies that are broad enough that fit with many countries, so we as a group can stand up to these platform providers and to go to the table of the decision makers at the platform providers. Because right now you have people who are down the line in the region, we're not able to be at the big, the big table. And that's when we have size. And of course, ASEAN has 600 million people. If you look at the EU or Canada and Australia, where the rest of the world saying to these app providers, look, our people are being harmed, our children are being harmed. There should be absolutely no leeway for children not to be protected.
Okay, let's say on that line of questioning, platform and a publisher, should there be separate laws?
I would think no. I would think they have to, if there are areas where, for example, content policy, whether it is harmful on Facebook for a publisher or on Facebook, it should be addressed. I can't see why that would be different. I can't imagine just because you are a publisher, you're more liable for somebody else's comments, whereas if that is the same thing on Facebook, you're not liable. I don't think that can continue, put it that way. I do think things will have to change. Because basically when Professor Owen was talking about the Canadian Safety Act, he was saying the duty to act responsibly to ensure your product is safe. Therefore, it's on the platform provider to make sure they have risk mitigation plans. And they have to show what steps the platform will take to minimize these harms. They will require the platforms to share data. And this, to me, is the most important part, because once we know what data they have, we will be able to have more transparency, i.e. more governance, because governance is transparency in process. So once we have a transparency and transparent process, and we know what is being pushed to you, what is AI, what is not even remotely true, I think things will be much better. And if we have an option to say we don't want anything AI generated sent to us, we only want information sent to us by our friends. If we can start dictating these sort of things and to empower and give tools to the users to protect themselves. That was very clear. It was a clear takeaway that I got from the conversation. And of course, the duty to protect children. So safety measures, and they talked about content that will be taken down within 24 hours. Because one of the things that they had said was that, you put up content, and then the content, even if you wanted to, it moves so quickly that even if you wait 2 days or 3 days, it's already viral because of the speed of the internet. So they were saying there were two areas that is just not negotiable. One was content that sexually victimizes a child. So anything that victimizes a child, that's it, it's down. The other one is any intimate images shared without consent. So this is something we saw in high schools here. There was a big issue because using Discord, where images were shared without consent.
Discord, the social media platform, right?
Yes, yeah. So that was an issue here. So basically they're saying kids need or require unique protection. But the conclusion is you can't take all the bad off the internet. You can't. It's just not possible. But I think that once you start giving tools to empower us, so we know, oh, this is fake news, this is AI generated, this is fake news, this is not a real picture. You know how people, they take photographs of a group of people, and then the next photograph is the same thing, and they say they are coming after your family underneath. Items like this will cause fear, even though it's not even remotely true.